Hello, I'm Michael, a landscape photographer from Germany, and in today's video we're going to focus on photography equipment, and it's not the typical gear today. It's about water shoes, or in more particular those new ones I got, the Aqua X Sport from Xero Shoes. So why water shoes? Why do I consider them essential for my photography? Well, if you look at my portfolio, you'll see that maybe 50% of it is made of seascape photos, river photos, waterfall photos, and for many of those I had to get into the water to take them. Now imagine standing in a riverbed of tiny sharp rocks trying to take your photo, while chances are you try to rush through the shoot to quickly get out of this uncomfortable situation again. Well, and this is where water shoes come in. They should protect your feet while still providing good footing. And yeah, over the years I used many different brands, and I always had to make many compromises, which is why I made a little list of requirements, and I want to go through them now with you and see how those Aqua X Sport stack up against those. So the first requirement, are those shoes comfortable? Same as with any shoes, shoes need to be comfortable, and I had them now on an 8-day trip to Italy, a cityscape trip. You might think, well, cityscape trips, not so much of water photography. That's true, but those shoes, I went with the gray ones. They look like casual shoes, so I could totally wear them in the city as my everyday shoes, and I have to say they were very comfortable. So each day I walked between 10-15 kilometers, and was just perfect in those shoes, which also makes them very versatile because I can use them as normal casual shoes. So those are not just water shoes for me. Next thing, are they easy to put on and off, which is important if I hike to a location in my trail runners because it's a long hike. Then I arrive there, the light might be nice, I want to quickly get into the water, so can I put them on quickly, which works very nicely with this quick lacing system they use. It's also elastic, so you don't even need to tighten it, you can just slip in and out very easily. And if you need to tighten it, so the next requirement, they have to sit firm. You can do so, you can just zip it a little tighter, and that's important if you want to walk through rivers like this. If your shoes slip off in such a river, they're gone, so it's important that they sit firm, and this is what they do. So all those requirements till now fulfilled, so make a check here. Are they lightweight? Another important thing for me, I travel a lot. If I have those in my luggage, they shouldn't add a lot of weight and also space, and I weight them. So one shoe is like size 10, 215 grams, which is like 7.5 ounces. So they're quite lightweight, which is because they are barefoot shoes with a thin sole. So the sole is just 5 millimeters or 5.5, which is not super thin like with some barefoot shoes, but still thin enough so it doesn't add a lot of weight to my luggage. The next thing, do they dry quickly? So I did the test, got them wet, had them sit overnight, which is for me the typical time frame in which my shoes should dry. So the next morning they were mostly dry because they use this thin mesh which dries off very quickly. I can put out the inner sole, also dries quickly. Only here at the heel there's a bit thicker material, a bit more protection. This is where they were still a bit damp. But it's not too bad. I think it wasn't a particularly dry room, so it was quite cold. So if I put them in a really dry, warm room, they should be dry, or put them into the sun a few minutes, should be fine. So all this fulfilled. Final thing, what about the grip? And that's why I came to this particular waterfall. I've been here in the past. There are some very slippery rocks, which is always a struggle, and this is where I tested them. Now, with grip and friction, there's always a compromise to be made. So on the one hand, you have shoes with a very firm or hard rubber, aggressive profile, and those are made for hiking, for trails, long-lasting shoes. On the other hand, you might have shoes with a soft rubber, which don't have much profile. Those have a better friction typically, but they also don't last very long. So for me, the sweet spot is roughly in the middle, so I want a bit of both. And now tested those, I have to say, on those very slippery rocks, if I go barefoot, I have more friction, like with those, which is because they use this profile, I think. This reduces the contact between the shoes and the rocks. And I think this gets better with time, but it's still at least as good as with my previous water shoes. So for me it's fine, but it's not super high friction. So I guess if you would, or if Xero Shoes would have such a shoe with less of the profile, a bit of a softer rubber, then you would get more friction. But then again, you might have to buy a new one every half year or year because the sole is worn off. So for me, I think this is a good compromise. So being somewhere in the middle, getting both sides, so I can also hike in them. That's also nice. I don't have to always use my trail runners for the hike. Can just like 5 to 10 kilometers should be fine in those. So that's a nice thing. And there's one final thing, which for me is also a game changer. Let me just show you. Now, what's the game changer? Well, the game changer comes in when you're shooting rivers like this one, which are very cold. Getting into those just with your bare feet in the shoes, your feet get very cold. Well, you already see it here on this side, on this shoe. I have combined it with a neoprene sock. And the fact that this works for me is the game changer. I can just remove the inner sole from the shoe, which then gives me more space in the shoe. Also the elastic laces help here. And then I can use like a 2mm neoprene sock together with those shoes. And then, well, it's very comfortable shooting in cold water. For me, that's a game changer. And I was looking for some solution like this for a long time. And I'm glad I finally found it. Well, those shoes come at a price. In the US, they cost $130. In Europe, they're 150 euro, so not cheap, but considering what you get, well, a full-time travel shoe really. So a casual shoe, which you can use even in cities. I wore them in Venice, no problems. A water shoe, and then the possibility to combine them with neoprene socks, or if you even have longer ones, this works. I think considering all this, they're worth the money. Okay. So I hope you liked this review, hope you found it helpful. Well, see you in the next video. Bye.